In this video, I'm going to talk about applying materials to the Pavilion project that you started previously. Before I start, though, I'm going to duplicate the first one that I made, and I'm going to call it, I think it might default to Pavilion 2. So basically, you want to kind of keep a sort of document that includes all of them as you go, in case you want to go back and start from the previous point. Now I'm going to open up the Pavilion 2 project. Before we get into talking about the materials, what I'd like to do is first show you how to change some of the settings for visibility. So right now I've got this roof plane and it's sitting on top of the walls. So it's going to make it a little difficult for me to select and move around and see what I'm doing. So when you click on something, this one is not locked. To do what I'm going to do next, you need to make sure that it is unlocked. So you can go to the entity information and make sure the unlock tool is visible. But what I'm going to do is hide it. Okay. Now you can see here that there's this ghosted image of that roof. And the reason that's showing is because when I go to display, hidden objects has been checked. So if I uncheck that, it's going to disappear. So if you have attempted to do this, you've gone in and you've hidden a plane like the roof plane, and now you want to turn it back on. One way to do that would be to go to the display here and turn on hidden objects. And from there, I can click on that roof plane and I can unhide it. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to go to the entity info and oops, not block it, but make it visible. Okay, so those are some ways of turning things on and off. So before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. And maybe for the time being, I will uncheck the hidden objects box just so I don't have that kind of distraction there. All right. So for the materials tool is right here. And you have some options. If it opens to this default right here, you can click on the browse tool and you'll see a lot more possibilities. The different types, there's just sticking with a basic color palette, which would maybe give you a more abstract look to your pavilion. Or you can kind of go with more materials that are really associated with buildings. So it kind of depends on what direction you want to take it. Maybe you try a few and see what works best for you. Okay, so for the first one, I'm going to start working with just some pure colors. And I may borrow a little bit from some tools, like this is something called a trending or color palette tool, colors.co. Now, and basically, I can't go strictly with this because when you go to the color palette, you'll see you're kind of limited by what colors. I mean, there's a lot of colors here, but when you look at the available colors in some of these palettes, it's just far, far more. So I guess I'm going to take a look at this and maybe choose a color palette that has some darks and some lighter colors, so I can get a lot of contrast between materials. Anyway, the choice of colors is up to you. So I'll start with these two in the back. And I think when you look at my pavilion from this direction, I want to see a lot of contrast between these two. So the basis for my color selection is kind of on ideas like that. So let's see here. How do I apply those colors? Well, let's click on one of these planes. Right now it's locked, so I'm going to unlock it. And then I'm going to go to the materials tool. And this front one, I'll add a little bit of color, but I really just want it to be fairly light. So let's go with this, this yellow. It's a very light yellow. Okay. And and then I'll go and I'll lock it. All right, now by choosing it this way, it has applied the same color to all sides of the wall. Okay. So the next plane will be this one. And again, I was kind of hoping to get a little bit of contrast between these two front planes. So I'll go down here and I will choose kind of darker gray. Now for my platform, I think the default that we're looking at is white. And so I'm going to keep it as a white surface. And maybe I'll change that later on. But so let's see, I've selected it. I'm going to unlock it. And in my color palette again, it's just, so when I click on it after choosing the white, it hasn't really indicated any change. So I think I'll leave the platform and the roof as the default colors. And I'll go back and lock that again. And I'll start adding colors to the other elements here, the other walls. All right, I think what I'm going to do is make the same color for these two. And then for this middle one, I'm going to apply different colors to the different sides. So let's first start by assigning the colors to these. Unlock that. And I'm going to go to the materials palette down here. Okay, and I'm going to assign this blue to that wall. And then I'll go and lock it. And I will choose this one, unlock it, and assign the same color to it. Okay, again, so both sides or all sides of those planes are going to be that color. And now for this middle one, I'm going to assign different colors to different sides. And the way you do that is click on it, unlock it like the others. And then if you double click on a side and then click on a surface, you can just apply a color to the one side. So maybe I'll just pick the green for this side. And on the other side, maybe I'll go with a light green. Maybe for the edges, I'll do those in a dark gray. Again, colors are your choices, and feel free to come back later and change them up a bit. Okay, and I'll click on that and lock it. Okay, so just going back through how you go about hiding or unhiding surfaces. I'll go to the display tool, click on hidden objects, click on that roof, and then I'll turn it on. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my scenes. So that's one option. And the next one that I'm going to do, I'll use different, like more architectural materials for the surfaces. So in this version, I've applied some materials that are more traditional. When I click on them and go to the entity information, you can kind of see what they all are. They're mostly stones, like these two are stone marble. This is a dark gray granite. This long one right here is a Carrara marble. And for this middle one, I put some glass associated with it. It says translucent safety glass. There's some other glass possibilities too that you could explore. So you can change these out, different colored transparent planes. Some of them I think are graphically a little bit heavy. Kind of an interesting one. I'm going to go back with that sort of lighter bluish safety glass, and we'll see how that looks as we move forward. But anyway, that's a possibility too. By the way, I'm going to create some extra copies. You don't need to do this, but I just want to like kind of keep track of the different versions that I'm considering. This one will be called 2A. I didn't save the first one that I had done. In this variation, I was looking at, combining some architectural materials with some painted or colored surfaces. And once you have everything with the material assigned that you'd like, go ahead and lock those components. Looks like some of them can be, some of them can't. A little bit more scale figure. Yeah. They're all locked and we're ready to move on to the next part.